This is number 4 in your Unit 2 study guide, and we're asked to find all zeros, both real and complex, of the polynomial and sketch a graph of this polynomial. If you remember, the first thing you always want to do is see if something factors, and in this case, every term has at least an x squared in common, so we can factor out an x squared, and we'd be left with x squared plus x minus 2. So already we can see some zeros, right? We can see that 0 is a 0 from the x squared, and it actually has a multiplicity of 2. And I'm just writing that down because I should keep in mind that in this case, since the degree is 4, I'm expecting 4 zeros. And at this point, we've technically found what we would consider 2 of them just because of that multiplicity. And now that we have it factored to the point where I have a quadratic, I could check to see, does this quadratic factor? If so, I can find my other zeros that way, and if not, I could use a quadratic formula. And it does look like this actually factors. We can keep the x squared. Two numbers that multiply to be -2 and add to be a +1 are +2 and -1. So it's going to factor to be x plus 2 times x minus 1, which means that our other zeros here are going to be -2 and +1. So we have all of our zeros. We have 4 of them because of that multiplicity of 2, and then these 2 as well. And then it asks us to sketch a graph. So when we're sketching the graph, obviously we can mark the zeros. So at 1 we have a 0, at -2 we have a 0, and then at 0 we have a 0. But in order to sketch the graph, I need to think about the multiplicity, and I also want to think about the end behavior. And in our original polynomial, we can look at that leading term. We have a positive leading coefficient, and then our degree is even. So in that case, if you have an even degree, both ends are either up or both ends are down. But the positive leading coefficient tells us that both ends are up in this case. And then it's just a matter of, does our graph actually cross at that 0 or does it bounce off? And we know that the only time it bounces off is with an even multiplicity. So at this 0, this is where we have a bounce. And at these two zeros, this is where it actually crosses that x-axis. So it's going to cross at -2. It's going to be down here. It's going to come up and bounce off of that 0 and then come back down